The FNL Network Talk Show.
Hi guys, and welcome to the FNL Network Talk Show. I'm Cat Jolleys. Now I'm joined today by three beautiful and fabulous hosts. There's Kay, Diana, and Eugenia. And I want to say a massive thank you to Eugenia for being here today, all the way from London. It is 1 a.m. people, it's 1 a.m. She is hardcore. She is with us from across the other side of the world. And if I was in London, if I was back home, oh my God, I would have my pajamas on, I would be in bed. So Eugenia, thank you so much for being here. It means a lot to have you here, especially with time zones and everything else. Anyway,
thank you,
how is everybody this week? What have you been up to? I know that our world traveler has been in India and now in London. But yeah, what have you guys been up to? Has it been a good week?
It's been a busy week, but a good week. On what day? I don't even remember now. On Tuesday, I went to a showing of Scream at the New Beverly, and then it was a double feature with Scooby-Doo, but I left to be a responsible human being, and my friend texted me that Matthew Lillard showed up and gave a speech.
Oh,
and I missed it because I had work the next day. But I mean, Scream was a lot of fun. It's so cool seeing these older movies and you have everyone in the audience and they bring up stuff at a cellular phone device and we all start cracking up.
That sounds good. Kay, have you been up to anything special?
Have I been up to anything special this week? No, not really. Just kind of the same old, same old. I did a video shoot way out in 29 Palms. No shade to 29 Palms, but what is that smell? Is that those special trees out there? I don't know. I just drove through parts of it and I was choking the smell of those trees. But the shoot was fun. And then I got to do a fun shoot at a mansion that's some $27 million mansion in the Hollywood Hills. So that was interesting. Ended up being a late night, but the house was so cool. The house was really cool. So that was fun this week.
Nice. Isn't 29 Palms, isn't that where there's a military base?
It was
wrong.
It was just out in the desert, literally.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a military base. I'm sure one of my friends was in the Marines and he was stationed out there, but I could be very wrong. Anyway, Eugenia, what have you been up to?
Hey guys, I'm so excited to be here. I can't miss a show for nothing, especially being with you. I feel like we're a little family and really excited for our viewers. I'm in London. I'm so excited to be here. Kat, your hometown. So shout out to you. Not hometown, but you used to live here a little bit, right? And it's really exciting. It's never been busier. I never saw anything like that, busier than anywhere else. I think it's because of the Queen. Basically the tourism is blowing up. There's so many people. I don't even feel like it's post-pandemic. Literally, it is Sunday, but it is kind of exciting to be back and see life around. And yeah, I'm excited to do a play here. So nothing like being in the capital.
No, that's super special. I mean, from my time living in London, I'm from further up north. It's amazing. There's so much hustle and bustle. I compare it to New York, but it's got a very different vibe. It's kind of like a small town New York, I'm going to say that. But anyway, we're going to move swiftly on. We're going to get into the questions. And my first question is something that's very much trending right now. It's on TikTok. It is on Instagram. It is on every single recipe site known to man. It is the butterboard, people. And the butterboard is everywhere right now. I want to know what you think about the butterboard. Have you done one? Are you going to do one? Is it a yay? Is it a nay? If you could adapt the butterboard for your taste, what would the core base be and what toppings would you use? And I'm going to start off with UK.
Nothing about the butterboard trend is enticing to me at all. And I'm a person that loves charcuterie. My husband is a specialty charcuterie board maker. I sent him to a special cheese class one year. He's an expert at picking out cheeses and hams and different meats. So he's just the king of charcuterie. So when I heard about butterboard, I was like, oh, another a new twist on the charcuterie. What is it? And once I found out it was butter, I was like, oh, leave me out of it. I mean, for me, I don't even I will not put butter on toast. If you toast the butter and then put butter, I hate that. I won't even do that. Like, I put the butter on the bread and then I toast it. I like my butter to be completely melted and soaked into my butter. Soaked into my toast. I'm so particular about how I consume my butter. I love butter, but not butter like what I consider to be like raw, basically. So the idea, like seeing people just like spread it and then eat it. I mean, I guess if you like, you know, regular butter, like on your toast, like cold butter, then this is probably very appealing. But I just have never, ever, even as a little kid, I've never liked my butter like that. So I think it's fascinating though, how trends start and just kind of take off. And I watched a few videos of people eating them. They seem to enjoy them, I guess. I mean, one lady had oversalted hers, so that was interesting. But then I think about cleaning it like out of a wooden board, because I use boards all the time for charcuterie, and I just think about smushing the butter into all the, you know, wood is very porous and it has all those crevices. I'm just like, oh, that's gonna be a nightmare to scrub that out. It's gonna be greasy and slick and oily. I mean, I guess it's tough to throw a wooden board into a dishwasher because it'll warp it. But like, I was just like, oh, that's gonna be a nightmare to clean. But I mean, I know people love it, but it's just not my bag. I cannot get on board with it. Give me some cheese and yeah, give me some goat cheese and red bell pepper and some toast or crackers, and I'm good. The butter I'm out for that one.
Yeah, I get it, because I've seen people use some bizarre, instead of like bread and crackers, I've seen people like use apples to scoop the butter up, and I'm thinking, oh no, like bread and butter, that's amazing, especially if it's like French bread freshly out of the oven. But an apple and a butterboard is no. Diana, moving on to you, what are your thoughts on the butterboard?
Yeah, so I was like, dang, I want to smush my face into one of these ASAP. It just looks so delicious. As you guys know, I do some work freelance with Tastemade, so we are very up on the butterboard trends. Personally though, like, yes, I'm huge on the butterboard, but I made a delicious pesto last Sunday. And I feel like maybe if I use less oil, I can get the consistency more dip-like instead of sauce-like. So I feel like on my dream board, I would maybe do like a dip and or sauce board. So we got like pesto on there. I don't know if you guys have ever taken a whole thing of garlic sliced off the top and stuck it in the oven, and then the consistency becomes like super spreadable. Like that would go on there. Maybe some sort of like, you brought up red pepper before, Kay, like a red pepper dip. I feel like that would be delicious. Like make it like the color of the Italian flag because I'm so extra, and then you take your bread across and like you have a pretty little design.
I can see that being amazing with stuff like hummus and cream cheese and kind of doing it, I'm guessing, you know, in sections. So perhaps you start with your butter, then you go to your hummus, then you go to your pesto, then you go to your red pepper dip, then you might go to something really spicy. And then if you want, you can just scoop your way through them all and have just a massive selection of different flavors on your tongue.
Yeah.
I can see that as being amazing. The butter itself, I'm going to give my thoughts on that in a minute. Moving on to you, Eugenia.
Well, I think it's a fascinating topic, just talking about trends in general. And, you know, as we all know in fashion, it's all about like trends and going from season to another. But social media, it just created so much, you know, things. I think as humans, we're just wired to connect through like doing the same things together. And now because of, you know, being separated for some time, we're all trying to connect online and kind of relate to each other in that sense. And I remember the trends that started with, do you guys remember like the bucket challenge, like ice water that people used to throw?
Yeah.
I remember it's like one of the first things that people started on Instagram at the time, but apparently TikTok is like, you know, outweighed Instagram and trends. What I think, I personally hate following trends. Like if I see a trend, I run the opposite direction, but I do have a lot of friends who like are following any kind of trend. I personally think it is dangerous for kids, especially because they don't really understand, you know, the health consequences or anything else, and they would do anything just to be popular. And, you know, what is the limit? Like there are very dangerous trends out there. So I think, it is definitely something to research before doing that. I understand like the aesthetic of, oh, it's so like innovative and it's so bizarre and weird. And I think that's how trends catch up because they're so weird, right? But at the same time, like I read, it's not very healthy to have butter out. Like, first of all, there are cracks, like you guys said, like Kay said, it's wood, so it can breed a lot of like microbes. And eating that, is that healthy? Then like if the temperature is hot, it is not healthy at all. And if you share the board, like there's so many questions that come to my mind. Obviously I'm not into butter unless it is French and it's on baguette and it's like stored in a really tiny little cute little thing. But yeah, butter on board, I wouldn't follow it. Like I don't know, personally, I'm not a trend person, and I definitely would watch for my kids and see where they're at, because it's so easy to just become one of, like a hog in a machine, and it's a huge machine which makes money. Like I remember there was a trend a few years ago where people would post pictures where they were trying to pretend to eat detergent bags. Like it was huge. I have a friend who is into like all the trends, and I was like, oh my God, what is that? Like, why would you do that? And there's some very sensitive people who can just do anything to follow and be accepted. And I think that is a question of psychology.
That's also true. I mean, when I saw the butterboard trend, my first thought was, oh my God, heart attack on a plate. Because basically you're eating a lump of lard. How is this healthy for you? Yes, it looks amazing with all your toppings and your lemon peel and your like mushed up garlic and your onions and your peppers or whatever else people have put on. But it's bizarre. I've seen butterboards with Halloween candy and all this. And I'm just thinking, oh, just know, people, what are you teaching your children right now? And don't get me wrong, I love warm bread out of an oven, homemade, and I do love it with butter. But I'm thinking, olive oil and balsamic is so much nicer, to dip your bread in than basically chunks of butter. And this butterboard, it's kind of eat your lump of butter and have like a bit of cracker with it. Oh, it's the whole concept, how that must feel in your mouth just to have that gunk. And it looks pretty. It's a no from me, absolute no. I kind of do want to make one just so it looks pretty and I can take a picture and then I'll be like, hey, who wants the butterboard, people? Because I certainly don't want it. But it's a bit weird. And the Halloween one, I was like, oh my God. I was like, what is this mother doing? What is she doing? And on that note, I was thinking, if I was going to adapt the butterboard for Halloween, what would I do? Would I go sweet? Would I do something like cookie butter and then do candy on top and like melted chocolate and broken up pretzel and all that sort of thing and make it fun and make it like a dessert? Or would I go the butter route and would I do something gruesome like kind of blood with like ketchup and then hectic spice with chilies to make you cry, like naughty and nice? What would I do? And I'm opening it up to you guys. Have you got any ideas what you would do if you were going to do some kind of Halloween equivalent of the butterboard, whether or not you use butter or not? And I'm going to jump in there with Diana.
So actually Trader Joe's has like a whole Halloween like cheese sauce whatever section. I actually went live a few weeks ago with my friends on Instagram as they were trying all of it, and there was some, I don't remember what was in it, but there's like a spicy honey one, and there's like different kinds of cheese that really incorporate like fall flavors, but they're savory and they're good without being gross, right? So I feel like that would be perfect to incorporate. Like I love the idea of honey, like in the Italian culture, we do a lot of honey with ricotta. So I feel like that would be a really cool combo, especially if it's like a spiced honey. She also had something with cranberry. I don't remember if it was like a cranberry cheese or cranberry jam or something, but I feel like that could really give you the texture of like blood, like what you're looking for, instead of ketchup. As soon as she went to ketchup, I was like, ketchup and butter, no. But yeah, just you want that like thick, like yucky. I definitely say like a honey or a jam or something like that.
That'll be cool. Kay, have you got any ideas?
actually love your idea. When you said cookie butter, when I tell you, oh my gosh, I love cookie butter so much. And the cookies that they make from cookie butter, those like speculoos cookies, I love those. And so I feel like cookie butter would be superior to anything that butter could ever even think about doing. So I feel like cookie butter would be great. Those speculoos cookies, definitely throw some toasted pecans in there. I love toasted pecans, especially if you could toss them with a little bit of brown sugar, then they get some caramelization on them. Those would probably be great to dip in cookie butter. Like you were saying, you always got to do some chocolate chips in there, maybe some like heavy chocolate sauce some kind of way. I love white chocolate as well, so get some of those chunks in there too. And the pretzels are always good because I like a sweet and a salty kind of balance going on. I think that would be really good. Yeah.
I'm going to say add into that either something like M&Ms for the crunchy shell, or even better still Reese's peanut butter, like little pieces, because then you've got like different textures of the crunchy, but also the peanut butter. So I think that'd be cool. Eugenia, is there anything that you would do for a Halloween board?
Oh my God, what a question. You know, my mind and imagination was just racing. I'm like, should you go weird or should you go like kids friendly? And like, if you guys, it's a weird trend. There's a new trend that I noticed recently. My friend actually told me about it. Like all the celebrities, they're eating bugs now just to save like the planet or things like that. So I was like, okay, if you want to like really catch it on fire, just put like a couple of bugs to like scare for Halloween. But also I'm so like into nature and animals. I would never do that. And it is type of weird. I probably will be like a super LA mom and be like, no butter, you know, super organic kind of spread. Like just think about the health of my kids, because I don't know, for me, it just seems super gross. Or maybe I just haven't caught up into like this whole, you know, feast celebration of like food and like combining things just for the show. But yeah.
I do think the bug thing's interesting because you can even get crickets dog food now. And it's purely made for crickets, and it's meant to be so much more environmentally friendly because obviously when you breed animals, we're not going to go into that, but you know, it's meant to be, the gases are meant to be bad for the environment. Anyway, crickets are apparently cheap, there's lots of them, and apparently they're very high in protein. And I'm just like, ooh, can you just imagine, like, I mean, you could feed your dog for free. You could go like spider catching and be like, here you go, love, have a spider for dinner. So yeah, I think it's a bit bizarre. But anyway, back to our Halloween cookie butter board. I think I would have to add some gummy spiders or some gummy worms, just so that we had something kid friendly that kind of screamed Halloween. Maybe one of those eyeballs that you have, Dracula teeth, just something that kind of is Halloween for the Halloween night, just a bit of decoration. So that would be the only thing that I would add. Anyway, I want to move on because I have been to the mall this week, and I went a bit last week too. I was looking for a dress anyway, but I noticed Macy's, they've got all the chocolate Santas out. There's some places that have decorated already. I'm like, wait, people, we're like the first week, second week of October. And there's Christmas stuff out. We haven't done Halloween yet. We still have Thanksgiving. Obviously, we put our trees up and our decorations up for Thanksgiving. But I'm like, is it too early? How early is too early to have the Christmas music playing round the clock? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Is it torture to your ears? Are you someone who enjoys the festivities and has your 3-month countdown calendar and you're literally ticking down the days to Christmas? Would you have Christmas every single day of the year? I mean, I think it's a very sensitive subject, and part of me thinks that it's very wrong to have it forced down your throat, because Christmas, it is a very hard time for many people. There's a lot of depression. There's people that have had relationship breakups. There's people that really struggle at this time of year. And I'm thinking, is it too much? Should it just be limited to just December? I think being festive, it's beautiful, but when is it too commercial? So I'm going to start with you, Diana.
Yeah, so here's the thing about Christmas and me. Like, once we're in the season, I love it so much. I can't do the music anymore. Just after you've worked in radio, and I love my job, this is not a knock on my job at all, but after you've heard it so many times, like it starts to be like, all right, I'm gonna just reserve this for maybe like Christmas Eve and Christmas, and the music will be fine. But I love the decorations. I love the specials on TV. As I mentioned before, I'm 100% Italian. Christmas Eve is actually the bigger holiday for us. We do the Feast of the Seven Fishes. I don't eat any of it because I'm vegetarian, but I still admire all the work that goes into it. We get together with my cousins. Like, it's a really beautiful, sentimental time. However, when it's presented to us, like on today, October 16th, slow your roll. I want to enjoy. I'm a Halloween girl, as you guys know. Like, I want to enjoy Halloween. I still like that post-Halloween leading into Thanksgiving vibe, that fall vibe. And then, you know, Black Friday hits. Like, lay all the Christmas on us you want. I think that's the last 2 weeks of November, or the last week of November, and then all of December is like just the perfect amount of time for Christmas. It feels seasonally appropriate, especially if you live on the East Coast. And I think everyone's happy that way.
Oh, I really agree, because I haven't had many family Christmases. My family is very split up. I don't have anything to do with one of my siblings. So, you know, I spent a lot of Christmases on my own. And for me, I love Christmas. I love the decorations. I love the fact people are happy. They're buying gifts. You know, people donate to charities at that time of year. I love all that. But it gets too much, forcing the music down your throat. And for me, it makes me actually uncomfortable, because I do sometimes struggle at that time of year. And so I see it both from the festive. I love, love, love buying gifts. I do love buying gifts. I love seeing people happy. I love the festivities, but I also see the other side of it too. And so, yeah, I'm with you. Do it for the whole of December, beginning of January. You know, you've got your 12 days of Christmas or whatever to have your tree up. But it gets too much. Kay, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, it never gets too much for me. I had a podcast called A Very COVID Christmas, and we started it like before Halloween, where it's a bunch of people that I work with that were like all obsessed with Christmas and like loved Christmas and just like did the Christmas countdown. And our opinion was like, it's never too early for Christmas. We were just like Christmas maniacs, you guys. I would like to remind you, 70 days till the big day right now. So I feel like for me, and my husband is the opposite. He's like, we don't put our Christmas tree up until the day after Thanksgiving, you know, but if it was up to me, I would put it up November 1st. Like, so we're always fighting about like, it's not time yet. Yes, it is. It's not time yet. And I'll just put like little stuff up around the house, like before it's time. And he'll be like, what is this wreath doing? I'm like, I mean, it's Christmas, you know, like I'm super excited when they start playing the music, like Coast plays the music. I Google it every year. They're going to start November 12th this year. That might be too early for some people, not too early for me. All the time I'm in the car, I'm going to be playing it. When my husband's in the car, he will not let me play it until after Thanksgiving. But I mean, I just love it. I'm amused at it when it's too early. Once me and my kids went to Knott's Berry Farm, and they have a giant, like next to the Chicken Lady restaurant that's like really famous, they have a giant gift shop in there. And I kid you guys not, it was like a holiday. I want to say it was probably Halloween had just passed. So it was before Veterans Day, and they had a Christmas tree up. And we could not believe it. We were like, they have a Christmas tree up already? Like, what? Like, it's like November 1st. So we took a picture of it and sent it to my husband. He was like, what is this? You know, he's like all disgusted by it, but we thought it was hilarious. Hobby Lobby is another place that's insane with Christmas. They put up their Christmas stuff. They probably have a tree up right now. I drove by maybe 2 weeks ago and I looked in the window and I was disappointed because I didn't see a tree. They usually have their trees up super early too. They are insane. I know they're selling Christmas stuff right now because it's on sale. There was like 50% off of all our Christmas like decorations. So like hats off to people who are that organized and stuff. But I do think that I understand people not wanting it that early, even though I'm not that type of person. Like, I do understand that, like I said, because my husband is like that. And I do know that it's not a happy time for everybody, especially if like you lost someone during the year, Christmas, like the holidays are always going to be like the toughest portion of the year for you to get through. And I completely like understand that. But I think the solution is not to have less Christmas cheer, right? I think the solution is to be more inclusive with our Christmas cheer, because I think there's a commercial aspect of Christmas, and then there's the real Christmas, which is the Christmas spirit. And we talk about this a lot on the podcast that I did. And I think the Christmas spirit is that kindness, the caring for other people, the giving, the charity that you see, all the increases in charity and kindness that you see. That's the Christmas spirit. That's what I'm really excited about for Christmas. I'm less excited about, you know, a big screen TV that's going to be for sale, right? And like all the commercialized stuff. So I think the more we infuse the Christmas spirit, the more people that you have that are struggling and that are having a difficult time, if we're showing an increase of kindness and care and inclusion to those people, you know, then that will make their burden easier and lighter throughout Christmas. Then it won't be so much of a slog for them. But that's what Christmas spirit is about, right? And I think that's a really important aspect of Christmas that gets lost a lot. But it's one that gets me really excited and pumped up. And so I just love it. I love it. I think people are kinder to each other. I think people are more charitable. I think just the vibes are great. People are more caring. I mean, it's just a great atmosphere and time of year.
I love that. I love the idea of the Christmas spirit. And I know, you know, my family back home, like I said, we are split up. But my parents and my sister's kid, they live together. And every Christmas now they have my mum's carer, Vicky, who is literally part of the family. She's with us for a few hours every day. And they have her stepdaughter. And they make, you know, they become a Christmas family. In fact, they are family every day of the year. But, you know, it's about, Vicky lost her husband last year. And it's just, we are her family. She is our family. And it's nice that it's like that, because it should be about including people that maybe are sitting there miserable on Christmas Day. And that's what Christmas should be about. It should be about, you know, Joe Bloggs down the road, he doesn't have anybody to be with. Hey, we've got some turkey, come and sit with us, enjoy, have a drink with us, let's celebrate together, you know. And one thing I used to do, and I used to love doing it when I lived in West Hollywood, obviously there was a lot of homeless people around. It's worse now since the pandemic, but I used to make like little stockings, and I used to go and give them out. And it would just be like stupid stuff, you know, it could be like candy canes, it could be snacks to eat, it could be water, but it was, you know, toiletries, and it'd just be something to give them, something that, you know, you're seen, you're heard, we care. And I think that's what Christmas is about. It's not about the commercialized stuff. I mean, I know back home, our local shopping centre in the nearest city, it's got the decorations up already. They are forcing it down your throat. They're like, buy Christmas, people. Here's the latest decorations. Here's the tree. What are you getting your family members? It's about commercialised gluttony, and that's what I'm going to say. But the actual kind of the feeling of Christmas and the giving and the emotion behind the Christmas spirit, that's what's important. And I think that's beautiful and it's wonderful. Eugenia, what are your thoughts on selling Christmas too early?
Well, I think you guys said it all in a way. You know, I'm with both of you. Like, Kay, thank you so much for a beautiful reminder, you know, that it is about Christmas spirit, because I think recent years, it's just been so many things that are happening and like separated us as humans. And I think it's a beautiful reminder to be kind and, you know, giving and connecting no matter what is happening in the world. And it's so interesting, Kat, that you said it's so true, like our memories, they're shaped by whatever we associate them with. And I mean, yeah, I'm super split. Like I usually go on stage and say, you know, how there is like a special day for every one of us in our life, and it's our birthday. But there's this guy who like stole my birthday, and his name is Jesus. And you know, it's like nobody sings you happy birthday on Christmas. But I love having birthday on Christmas. It's such a beautiful reminder about not being commercialized. Like I love actually that it's much a bigger day, and like I love seeing how people celebrate life in that, and it just feels so festive. And you know, a lot of times I would give my presents away to a charity because it is just such a great reminder, you know, that like it's never enough material things, and it maybe will feed you dopamine in the brain where you get something, but then giving something is so much more rewarding than getting anything. And, you know, it's interesting, like I've been out of America for maybe like almost a month. And last time I checked was like September, and it was Halloween already in all the stores. I don't miss the commercial aspect of it. Definitely, you know, it is a corporation in America. And I remember first time moving from Europe, which is so much more relaxed here. Like I don't see any kind of commercial aspect of anything being in London or India. But I remember coming to New York first time, and I saw people just with tons of shopping bags like every day, which was just mind-blowing for me. It's like, why do people work so hard and then go shopping every day? But then of course you like get used to it, and you know, you just kind of go along with the trend. I think, yeah, I wouldn't teach my kids that like, oh, let me get another toy and let me get another thing, because it's so subconscious, you know, it's so easy to get on top of that and replace it with like real things in your life. And instead of calling somebody, you'll go and shop and do shop therapy. But yeah, I think the beautiful aspect, it is like having so many people who are homeless, struggling, especially with the economy now. It gives you a motivation to really do something bigger than yourself. And yeah, I mean, being in London, like I don't see there's any kind of seasonal things yet. It is just like one day at a time, which is a good reminder as well to live like for now, instead of like making your brain just go and grab to like, what is the next big thing? But at the same time, it also reminds you of like, okay, it's a holiday season. And, you know, just I'm the last one usually who is the last one to throw the Christmas tree out, because I just want to hold on to like that warmth. And personally for me, it is associated with like when the family's together and the kids are together. And I was missing them yesterday and literally was watching on my phone like all the Christmas pictures from last year, and I can't wait to decorate the tree. And it's something that we do together, and go and choose the Christmas tree and, you know, do all these festive things. And it feels like, okay, you don't have to like work and hustle and, you know, how we all do like every day. You actually can relax and enjoy it with people who, you know, who are important to you, because you never know how much time we'll have on this planet, you know. And it's just a beautiful reminder that, you know, family is important, and it's important to call those people you maybe haven't talked for a while with. And it gives you like, it gives you a motivation to do that.
I think if you've got kids, it's so magical because you've got their excitement. And like you said, it is about family. It's about being together. It's one day of the year where you can just be together, not stress, not worry about anything else, not have to worry about a phone going off for a work call or something like that. And I think it's really special to spend time together. And if you've got a kid and a kid's excited, if they're young enough, they still believe in Santa Claus, that is wonderful, and it's amazing, and it's beautiful. And I love that aspect about it. I really do love that aspect that, you know, you've got kids that are really excited by it. I think if you're religious, I think it is extremely special. Eugenia, like you, I have a December birthday. Mine is a few days earlier than yours, so I'm not quite special enough to be a Christmas Day birthday, but I get it. It's the time of year where people are so hyped up about going shopping for Christmas and everything else that you kind of, sometimes you're like, oh, I got forgotten. But it's, you know, it's an amazing time of year, but it's also a very sad time of year for many people. The one thing that upsets me about the commercialization is, like you said, there's people with bags and bags and bags and bags of shopping, and often they run up such big credit card debt. They spend the next year, maybe more, paying it off. And you think, why? You're like, a kid doesn't matter if they get one gift or if they get 100 gifts. It's about the special thing that they want. And it's about spending time together. It's about playing with your kids. It's about creating memories. You know, you can have some of those bubbles and a wand, and they will have a whale of a time. It doesn't have to be a $200 present, you know. And I think we are pressurized into spending more than we can afford. And that's my one thing with the shops forcing it down our throats. Our holiday itself, it is beautiful. It's about giving. It's about embracing other people. It's, you know, if you don't have family, and you don't have anything special to do. I love the fact that in LA, people go and they volunteer at the soup kitchens and everything else. And I think that's wonderful because people give up their time. They give up, and you see a lot of celebrities do it too, and they do something for the good of other people. And that is the Christmas spirit that Kay was talking about. And I think that is beautiful, wonderful, and amazing. Has anybody got anything to add about Christmas?
What do you guys like? What are your favorite Christmas movies? Do you have any?
I would say a Christmas, what we watch every year while we trim the tree, the day after Thanksgiving, we watch A Christmas Story, which A Christmas Story is just hilarious. I watch it multiple times throughout the year, but we make sure we watch it when we trim the tree. And then our family always watches Elf. Elf is just like an instant classic for us. It is hilarious. As a kid, I used to watch all the Charlie Browns, but my kids aren't really into the Charlie Browns. They're into like the movies. Yeah. So Elf and A Christmas Story are the top ones that are on repeat throughout the whole season.
I'm going to say The Snowman. Do you guys, or was that very much a British thing? It's like a cartoon with the snowman, and he flies about and he visits these different lands, and there's a lot of singing involved. I don't know really how else to explain it, but The Snowman was Christmas for us, and it was the most beautiful cartoon sort of film. It was just amazing, the most beautiful music. It was stunning. It was one of the most stunning, I'm going to say old-fashioned cartoons, because it was drawn, it wasn't computer generated like today, and it's so beautiful. And to me, that's Christmas. I think it's still played in the UK now. It's that much of a gem. Diana, Eugenia, any Christmas movies?
Yeah, no, for me, it's Elf. I grew up in New York, so watching that movie feels a lot like home. You know, they're in Rockefeller Center, and if you live anywhere in the tri-state area out there, like, you're wanting to go to see that Christmas tree, you know it's going to be a hassle, you know blocks may be closed off, it's okay. You get there for your 5-second picture in front of the tree that has a guy blocking it in back of you, but it's fine. You went to see it. You went to see the windows at Macy's at Herald Square. You did your little ice skating, and I just love that with Elf. And I think Will Ferrell's character of Buddy in the movie really just encompasses that Christmas spirit we've all been talking about, and just really brings out all the children in us. And then something else, it is a movie, but it's not what I'm like referring to, the ballet, Nutcracker. I was a ballerina for a while, so that was just really special to me. I remember my dad took me to see the Nutcracker, because I think the story was my aunt or one of my cousins wanted to take me to see it, but they passed away, so my dad took me to see it. And then when I minored in dance in college, we had to go every year see Princeton Ballet School do a beautiful rendition of the Nutcracker, so that just always feels special.
Eugenia, have you got any favorites?
Yeah, I mean, except for Elf, of course, and like the Christmas spirit in New York is so special. I personally remember being obsessed about watching Home Alone, and like I come from like post-Soviet Russia, and like just like watching this American film and like how people celebrate Christmas, because in Russia we don't celebrate Christmas on December 25, it's on January 7. So it's very different. But yeah, Home Alone, for some reason, I remember being in love with, the boy. Like I was so obsessed. I don't know, like I had such a big crush as a child on him. Literally was looking for guys who look exactly like him. So yeah, that definitely like educated me a lot about New York. I think one of the films, right? Didn't he stay in New York in the Plaza Hotel? And I just thought it was just such a crazy thing. And yeah, I mean, I remember in Russia, we actually, not for Christmas, but we celebrate New Year just as much as Christmas. And there's this film where this guy gets like, celebrates the holidays with his buddies. They go to sauna, they get super drunk, and then they get lost. And people in Russia watch it like every year, drinking vodka. So it's like the small traditions. I don't know. It's very strange. But yeah, I mean, there's nothing like Elf. Obviously, I love like Zoe Deschanel and like all of these characters. They kind of, just are iconic. Like no matter how old you are, who you are, like how much time passes. I think it's just such a beautiful reminder about having that like, not childish, but something like a childlike inside of you, and like it really reminds you of that.
I loved Home Alone, and I loved it because, you know, the house is so huge. It's very American to have these massive houses, and the amount of decorations and lights, because that wasn't a thing in the UK. And like I said, we've talked about this before, the amount that you guys in America, you decorate, and how much us as foreigners, we kind of think, wow, and we get excited by it because it's so different. And I just remember Home Alone, it was about the decorations and the house and the grandeur of it all, and just how different it was from, you know, just having your tree up in the hallway or whatever. Because, you know, we did like a tree in the hallway and some tinsel on the banisters. There was nothing outside the house, nothing. And then you guys are like, hello, it's Christmas, there's lights everywhere. It's like the fairgrounds, but the Christmas version. And every house is like that. And I just thought, when I was seeing Home Alone and I hadn't experienced the American Christmas for myself, I was just like, wow, this is amazing. You know, it was like a kid in a candy store where you just kind of like, I have been shortchanged, people. That is Christmas. And I have my tree and my little bit of tinsel that's up the stair, you know, banister. So yeah, I loved Home Alone just because of the bright lights, and it was so different, and just, it was so American, so very American, which I love. Anyway, moving on, we're going to get a little bit serious. And during the pandemic, and for me this year, I've kind of been thinking about life, and I've been thinking about, do I feel I'm in the right place with relationships, career, finances? And I want to know how you feel about your personal situation. Are you happy with where you are at life? What do you want to change? If you aren't happy, how do you see yourself getting to a point where you're like, yeah, I'm good, I'm content, I've got everything I want, I have money in the bank, I'm living in a place that I really like? And if you are there, any tips and tricks? Because I need them, people, I need them. And we're going to start off with UK, because you're married, you are such a grounded person. I'd love to know how you feel about where you're at.
I feel like my motto for this year, I don't know, have you guys seen this Mariah? It's Mariah Carey. She's had a little bit to drink. She's a little tipsy, and she's on the stage, and the guy hands her the mic, and he says, what's the motto for this year? And she goes in a very kind of a slurred Mariah voice, I'm gonna do the best I can with what I got. And then the guy goes, oh, and the whole audience just cheers. That is, when I saw that, I was like, Mariah is my spirit animal. First of all, it was hilarious because Mariah is so poised, you never see her like that. But for her to say, I'm gonna do the best I can with what I got, I just loved it. And so for this year, that has been my motto the whole year. I'm not gonna worry about what I don't have. I'm not gonna, you know what I mean, complain about what somebody else has. I'm gonna do the best I can with what I got. So I just really love that theme. I mean, I think on a more serious note, Oprah is always a really great person with quotes. And I remember a long time ago, she did a show about don't wait until, because people would say all the time, I know when I was in school, I think I was watching this when I was in undergrad, she was like, you know, people always say, when this happens, I'm going to be happy. And so in school, people would say all the time, man, I'm be so happy once I graduate. I'm be so happy when I get this degree, and then I can you know, then I can have a real job, or I can do this, I can start making money or whatever. And her thing was, if you feel like you have to wait for something to be happy, you're never going to be happy. You can't wait for something to be happy. And so it was just really eye-opening to me. And I was like, like, okay, yeah. Because I had found myself saying that, you know, I'll be so happy when I graduate. And then I just realized, like, yeah, I can't, because I'm always going to be, you know, once I was single, oh, I'll be so happy when I get married. Once I get married, oh, I'll be so happy when I get a family. Oh, I'll be so happy when my kid is potty trained, at least. Oh, I'll be so happy when they start school. Oh, I'll be so happy when they start to get good grades. You know what I mean? And it's like, you can't be so happy when you're going to be wishing your life away. When you retire, you're going to be so happy when you retire. Like, finally going to be happy when I die. I mean, I don't know, because then you don't have to work no more. You don't have to worry no more. Like, no, like, life is to be lived now in the moment. If you can't be happy in the moment, like, and I don't mean like, when I say happy, I don't mean like, oh, this is so much fun, because I mean, we live in I mean, this is life, right? It's not going to be fun all the time, right? So I say say to my kids all the time, like if we were doing something and it wasn't fun, and like, oh, this isn't fun, I would be like, a carnival is fun. You know what I mean? Like a roller coaster is fun. School isn't supposed to be fun. School is interesting sometimes. School is fascinating sometimes, but like it isn't fun. You know what I mean? A lot of things I do aren't fun. I'm not chasing fun all the time. And I feel like that mentality about happiness sometimes. So I hope for my life, my goal is to have an underlying borderline of satisfaction here, right? And then with the underlying satisfaction or joy, then I can experience the ups and downs that life throws to me. But hopefully if I have a bedrock foundation of joy, and I think that the only way you're going to be able to get that is through appreciation. And I've had spiritual leaders, like, especially during COVID, like that time was crazy. We were like, what is happening? It was unprecedented. And I remember in the first, like maybe month of COVID, one of my spiritual leaders came out and he just said, what I want you guys to do is cultivate appreciation. And we were all like, what? Like, he ain't gonna tell us when it's gonna be over, or what can we do? Or is there gonna be a special program to help us? Or, you know, and he was like, cultivate appreciation, because if you can do that, if you can truly do that, then you're gonna be able to find an underlying form of peace and joy, no matter what else happens. And it was absolutely and completely accurate. So no matter what ups and downs came, as long as I had the borderline of like appreciation, and I was able to like see, oh, this is, you know, not necessarily everything has to be great, but I can appreciate what I have, then I was able to I think it just changes your perspective on a lot of different things. Then I was able to have more peace, and I was able to meet challenges better. Right. And so I think that it's tough to say like, oh, I'm so happy this is a perfect point in my life. Because I think a lot of times you look back and you go, oh, man, that was so great. I didn't know what I had when I had it. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. But I think as long as, for me personally, as long as I cultivate appreciation, I'm able to find that kind of underlying peace and joy. Then I'm able to ride out anything that comes along. So then I feel like I am in a great place, because I'm just, you know, I'm doing that and I'm working in the flow of life, right? So
I absolutely love that attitude. I think it's brilliant. And, you know, there's a lot to be said for everything you're saying and your attitude and your positivity. Moving it on to you, Eugenia, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, Kay, you like ignited the fire. I feel like your energy just like, you just ignited everybody. I'm like, oh, like you give it a round, girl, like to everybody to
give her a round of props too. She was drunk, but she was right. No, go ahead.
Well, I think it's so easy, right, to like spread happiness around. It's amazing how like you can see it in other people, and it's so inspiring. It is really interesting. You know, I just spent some time in India. I was very lucky to take that time off and kind of, you know, just go to a place where you can really experience that, because it's just such a spiritual place, and being surrounded by nature, you definitely go to basics. And that's what they taught me. They're like, it's all about being and, you know, coming from inside happiness rather than doing something to be happy, like you mentioned that. And I think a lot of times it's really easy to be lost, you know, being bombarded with all these messages like, oh, somebody has more than that, and like all this celebrity gossip, especially if you live in like mega city, and like comparing like how people have more than you and how people have less than you. It's just easy to go into that monkey mind, you know, of like, oh, I don't have enough, and like I need something else. And, you know, especially if you're in a career where you are like a self-made artist, or whatever you do, like if you have to work every day, you kind of come to the bottom every day, and like you have to find a new job, and like it's never enough, you know. And I remember just when I started in entertainment business, you get like highs and lows, and you're like happy you got the job and you got the poster, but then it goes away and nobody cares. And, you know, you have to reevaluate like your values and what it is, you know, what makes you really happy. And I think for me, like personally, it was a great lesson, because like once I stopped hustling, really like being in an entertainment business, and I'm like, okay, I'm not available because my mental health is so much more important than the next job, you actually attract, you know, more jobs and better quality jobs. And then it is important to, you know, I think my therapist says there's nothing as valuable and as time in this life and health. So I think however you spend your time on this planet and with your life. It's so important, and the quality of time is so much more important than, you know, the next job that you get. And yeah, I think, I mean, personally, I've never been happier. I'm in London now doing a play, and I've got so many films, and like, I was lucky that the pandemic haven't affected as much, but I know, you know, how much obviously it affected like every person on this planet. And economically speaking, there are things, you know, that are happening. But I think at the same time, as you said, it brings us back to, you know, it's a great equalizer, things like pandemic that happened to us, because you go back to basics and you say like, I don't need as much as, you know, just basic things like shelter and health is the most important thing, and your family and people like that and time with them. So I definitely reevaluated the idea of happiness and kind of got back to the gratitude as well. And also it's an interesting thing, you know, like in America, I think there's such a thing as a business of happiness. And there are places which really prey on people who are vulnerable and maybe not as steady or can go through things, and like, okay, let me just make you happy. And like with a slogan, which I don't believe in, you can be just that face of happiness. I think that's why there is like a film that is very popular now. It's called Smile, which is a horror film, you know, and I understand that too, because, you know, I like, it's interesting because Russians are so tough. And like when we came to America, it's like, how are you doing? I'm great. You know, it's like, no matter what. I'm like, but how are you really doing? So I think it's important to balance things out. You can't be happy all the time. I think it's important to teach kids that life goes up and down, and it's beautiful to embrace it, like the best and the worst, and just like go through it. But it is like a small little thing that nobody can give you ever, that you really have to find in the bottom of your heart. And I think it does come from gratitude. And jobs are jobs. Like I was talking to my playwright friend, right? We're in London, it's amazing, but it's theater, so nobody's coming here for a huge production. And my friend is a famous playwright, and we had this talking today. She's like, you know, I like on paper it looks so amazing, and I made all this career, and like it looks fantastic, but you know, like I don't know what's going to happen after this production. And I'm like, you know what, you made a choice to be an artist, and I think it is a choice, and you have to follow the consequences, because it's easy to have a steady 9-to-5 job, but then it is a choice, you know. But if you choose the life of like artists, then you don't know what's going to happen, and it goes up and down, and it might look in somebody else's life like you have it all together, but actually nobody's ever have it all together. Like you would go up and down, and it's life, it's beautiful. You know, I think the beauty of life is you never know what's going to happen next moment, and it is a roller coaster. And yeah, that's what I try to teach my kids, like to find it inside, you know, no matter what. And nobody can make you happy, not your husbands, not your kids, not anything else. Like you can do it, and you can share it. And when you can share it, that's like when you can have the most amazing relationships and things come to your life. I really truly believe in that.
Okay, I'm going to go back to some of the stuff that you said a little bit later on. So right now I'm going to move on to you, Diana.
Yeah, I think everything that I was going to express has been brought up. I do work with a coach, and this is something I'm working on right now, how to stay out of that compare and despair mode. And it's very hard, especially in the day and age of social media. Social media is a highlight reel. It's very rare people get on there and be like, I'm going to be vulnerable. I'm going to be honest. This is what I'm going through. And if I can be honest, sometimes when people do that, I get cynical depending on the person, if they're doing it with true intentions or if they're doing it for more likes and follows. So I would say if you're in a tough spot and you're in that compare and despair mode, maybe staying away from social media, or like hiding people who they're not serving you right now. They're not giving you your best feelings. Another thing that's helpful is just finding little pockets of joy. Kind of as Kay was mentioning before, you know, as long as you have that like stable joy. For me, that might be taking out my cross stitching for an hour and turning on a movie, and that's putting my phone aside and just enjoying that time, or going for a walk and listening to an album or a podcast I really like, or lighting a candle, or making yourself a really good meal. You know, is that feeling of like, I wish I had a husband, I wish I was at the next level of my career, still there? Yes, but you're learning to make friends with it instead of letting it take over you. You know, there's a really fine line between getting into, I don't want to say victim mode because that sounds too mean, but like kind of just maybe falling victim to those thoughts, right? Because everyone has something special inside of them. Everything has something that makes them unique. And it's kind of just, we're all on a different path. And like I mentioned earlier, when it's just so accessible to compare yourself to everyone else at your fingertips, it makes it easier to get upset about it. So it's hard. I'm not going to sit here and be like, it's so easy, I love my life. Like, no, that's literally not what it is. But it's just taking a step back and being like, okay, I notice I'm feeling this way right now. Like, what can I do in this moment to spark joy that's best going to serve me?
No, everything you've said is so important. And I have noticed that I'm switching off my WhatsApp. I'm switching off my messages. I actually have my phone calls on silent because I get in my head and I worry about stuff. And working in this industry, you often only feel as good as your last day. If you've not worked, you might feel like a failure. If you have worked, you're like, whoa, I'm brilliant. You know what I mean? And it's difficult when everything's in your face, when there's social media and people are posting fake stuff. You do start to compare. Relationship wise, I am good. I am good being single. I like being single. I don't want a man in my life. And I've been single a while, and I'm at a place where if I was going to have a relationship and if I was going to get married, I want the house next door, or I want a different wing of a mansion. So I do need a rich guy because I like my space. I like being with myself. I'm quite content being with myself. There are aspects of my life that I do want to change, but it's like everyone said, it's being content with what you have. You've got more than other people. It's about working hard to be true to yourself, to get to your goals career-wise. You know, if you're passionate about what you do, then hopefully you'll be bringing in the money that pays the bills and everything else. And I just think it is about being appreciative. It is about the bigger picture. There's somebody that's always worse off than you. It is about accepting that life ain't perfect. You can always do better. You can always do a lot worse. It's a roller coaster. It really is ups and downs. Appreciate the ride because you've only got one ride. And press the button if you want to go faster, people, because that's what life is about. It's about the experience. It's about the bumpy ride. It's the yings and the yangs and the turning the corners and having a moment where you're like, yeah, stuff is great. And also having a moment where you're like, oh my God, and you're hanging on for dear life and you're terrified for whatever because things aren't going your way. And I think that's beautiful about life. I do. It's scary, but it's also, it's got a lot of adrenaline because you never quite know what's going to happen. And anyway, Eugenia did touch on something. And so I'm going to move on to the next question. And this came to me because of something that happened to me this week. And we all work in media, but this applies for being a lawyer, it applies for being a waitstaff, it applies for so many different careers. And I want to ask, do you feel in your career it's okay to be used? Like in entertainment, for example, Christian Bale, he got given $3,000, just $3,000 for doing American Psycho. That was his whole paycheck. And that grossed so much money. And yeah, I've seen the jaws drop, guys. I have seen the jaws drop. And it does happen in a lot of industries, but especially entertainment, where people are taken advantage of. You know, when you're starting out in this career, there's so many, do this job because it's good for your resume, do it for a credit, do it for a copy. You know, is getting a paycheck, should it be something that always happens? Or can you be paid in other ways? Can you be paid through your own enjoyment of doing it? Can you be paid because you're building towards the next step of your career? And I just want to know your thoughts on all this. How do you feel about, I'm going to say, the exploitative nature of life, because it is all industries, it's not just entertainment. How do you feel about it, and how do you navigate it? How do you use it for your advantage? And I'm going to start with UK.
I think it's a great question. I think when you talk about being exploited, I think it's really interesting because I think it does happen a lot in entertainment. I was talking specifically to my husband about this a couple of months ago. I was doing some project and I said, it just feels really icky. It feels like I'm being exploited. And so my husband said, if you feel like you're being exploited, then you're being exploited. Like if that's your feeling, then it is. You don't have to ask any more questions, right? Because you already feel it. Does that make sense? You feel it. So I also have a master's degree in school counseling and education. And so when I went to get my master's degree, you have to do 2 years of, just like classwork, but then you also have to do 600 hours, usually unpaid hours of what they call, but it's basically an internship. They call it field work. So I did 200 hours at a middle school, and I did 200 hours at a high school, and I did 200 hours at a community college. So you go in, you work, you basically work under someone, and they train you on the certain procedures of how to work specifically in middle school, because it's very different across age groups when it comes to school counseling. And so you do not get paid for that. When I worked at the community college, I was able to like finagle one of those so that I got paid. And then after my time was up, they ended up keeping me, and I worked there for about 2.5 years. But the other places, you just go and you work for free, right? And so it was really interesting because most of the people in my classes had other jobs. Most of them were teachers. And so they would go, and a lot of them had been teaching for years. In California, you get a teacher making $70,000 or $80,000 a year. So they would go and be making that kind of money, and then they would have to carve out all of this time to work for free. It was like really frustrating for a lot of them, which was understandable. But I think that the thing to think about there, because I realized I wasn't being exploited, right? Because this is part of the master's program. All programs work like this in the California, in the state of California, to get a master's, because you have to have that training, which is what they hope that you get. So because I came out of that experience moving into entertainment, I was able to realize when something is more like a training and when something is more like being exploited. And I feel like the difference in that is, for me, is education. So I feel exploited when I'm working to build someone else's something at the expense of myself. So if I'm doing something for you and it's only building your company, and I'm not receiving any education in kind, I'm not receiving any type of further training, I don't feel like I'm gaining any growth within myself, then that's when it feels exploitative, right? So I think it's really important to realize, like, sometimes for me, I will do something that might feel like, ooh, that's kind of off in the balance. I'm not getting paid enough, or you know what I mean? But if it is giving me the growth that I'm after, if it is giving me the training that I need that I wouldn't get anywhere else, then that's how I kind of off balance it. But I think it's a good point to think about. If you feel like, oh, am I being exploited? Then you're probably being exploited. The feeling that you're being exploited is telling you you're being exploited. And then that's when it's time to go, right? Because you have to value yourself at some, you know what I mean? You have to value yourself and your time. And so at that point, you only have yourself to blame. Once you realize it's happening, like, it's time to bounce. It's time to get out. And so unfortunately, I feel like a lot of people don't realize that, maybe until it's too late, until they've given up a lot of themselves and their time and their energy. But for me, I would say it's never too late. It's never too late to make a good decision. It's never too late to choose yourself, if that's what you need to do. But yeah, I think you're right. I mean, it happens a lot in this industry. I think it happens a lot across industries too, honestly, because you have people that just don't have any scruples and will treat their fellow man any kind of way. And so that's unfortunate. But I think because of the business that we're in, and we have people, and there isn't a formal, I think this is what it is, because there isn't a formal track to get to where we want to go. Everybody has so many different ways. For you to be a school counselor, there's one way. You have to have an undergraduate degree, you have to school, you have to do 600 hours, you have to pass this massive test, right? If you don't do those 4 things, then you just can't do it. And that's the path. There is no other way, right? But with entertainment, there's so many different paths and so many different ways that it's difficult to kind of chart your own course, I think, for some people. So anyway, yeah, I mean, I think it's really a tough thing and an important thing to talk about. But yeah, that would just be my number one tip for people. If you feel like you're being exploited, you're being exploited. Yeah, run, get out of there.
I totally agree. Trust your gut, people. Trust your gut. And it is the entertainment industry. It's so saturated. There's so many of us that are all wanting the same thing that it does happen a lot in this industry. But like you said, it happens when you're a lawyer. It happens when you start working in a restaurant as wait staff. It's across the board. It's everywhere. Diana, what are your thoughts?
I really love Kay's definition of how you could tell you're being exploited or not. Like that was, as you were saying that, Kay, I was like, oh my God, that makes total sense. Like my brain could not put that into words, but yours could. So thank you for that. I definitely think this is something that happens across industries, like you guys say. Even in the beauty industry, you know, there are assistants, right? And I'm sure they get paid, but like nowhere near the money you can make as you grow and refine your craft. And I think, you know, I have been subject to taking on free work, but as Kay mentioned, I look at it as, okay, is this going to help me refine my craft? Am I going to have the chance to work on this and become better for it and like have a product that I'm proud of? And if the answer is yes, then like sign me up. But if not, then maybe that might not be worth my time. I also feel like there's a lot of criticism about internships because I know, as Kay was mentioning before, with you having to do so many hours, and that's like one way of studying. And like, for me, my internship, I was unpaid, but I feel like it's some of the most valuable experience that I ever got. I was in the real working world. I got a job in that field and I met so many people, learned so many things that I didn't learn in my college classes. So even though it gets a bad rap because it's, you know, it's not paid work most of the time where you may get a stipend, I think it was just so like valuable in intelligence and knowledge, and I'm so happy I got to do one. So I feel like people are too quick to knock that aspect of things, and they're really, really helpful. So it just depends. You really have to analyze the opportunities you're given and see if it's working best for you before you say yes to everything. And I think Eugenia made a point about this before, you know, sometimes it's tempting to say yes to everything, but if you look at it and you analyze, this might not be the best for me, that's where more opportunities that are worth your while start showing up, because you've kind of in a way proven that you trust something out there is better for you.
I think also, adding on to what you just said, I think if you're in a group situation, for example, like we are, we're all so different. We all have different talents. You can learn so much of each and every individual person here. And we do, we enjoy it. We love each other's company. We wouldn't be here giving our, you know, putting our energy into anything if we didn't generally love each other, enjoy each other. And we're learning stuff. We're learning from each other, from different experiences, from people's different takes on stuff. And I see a lot of free work in the industry. Like if I'm doing a low budget film, for example, it is like the best acting class, because you're actually doing something live. You can learn from your mistakes. Yes, you're not paying to have a class with, you know, a master or something, but you are getting on the spot set experience. You're learning off other people. You can make mistakes if it's low, and you get to rewind and reshoot it again, but you learn the whole time. And I think that's so valuable. Anyway, moving on. Eugenia, what are your thoughts?
Actually, it's so interesting. You know, I think I'm a huge advocate for anti-exploitation, but it definitely took me some time. So I work with everything from like anti-human trafficking, coming from the bottom of it, and then, you know, looking at like child actors and how they're exploited as kids. Like it is just kind of sad, because as a child, you obviously don't understand. And look at like all the conservatorship, right? Conservatorship that like Britney went through. And people don't understand what it's like, you know, to be a child in this industry. because you don't know the laws and you have people who sign paperwork for you. And, I think money is energy in so many ways. And it is about it is paper, but it is about an exchange. And, it's about respect and how much self-respect do you have for yourself. But I think being on the side of like, as an artist, it's a pity for me that people always think that you can be a replaceable person. A lot of times I think people in power push it onto you. Like, if you don't want to do this job, we have 50 more people lined up, and I think it's so easy to get into that trap. Like, honestly, when I started modeling, at 15, I knew that I had to make money. So I would do anything to get any jobs, obviously not for free, but still maybe some jobs that didn't stood up for what I wanted to stand up for, so I'm glad now, for example, like graduating from modeling into the industry of like acting or doing things for brands that I believe are like not abusing animals and like have integrity and have a right product. And even with acting, like when you start, I had a hard time because people said, you never work because you have a Russian accent. And like, if you don't take this job, like, forget it, don't even try. I think there's so many people who just abuse that power. And I had to fire an agent before pandemic, which was super scary. But, I didn't agree. I had to like have a talk with myself, and I didn't want to play this role that they suggested and certain things, especially for women. I think it's so hard, because they will always tell you like, oh, after you are 15, you're not valuable anymore. Literally, with everything, there's all these messages of fear that are brought into you. So I think it is so important to be surrounded by people who actually value you and your time for who you are, rather than like pity you on the fear place where like, okay, well, you don't want to do it and bye, like, you're just part of this whole system. I think it's important to have unions. I mean, thank God there's SAG. Actually, it can be controversial. Some people love it and some don't, but I think they still protect you. And I'm really happy that there is like, my friend, she started Model Alliance. So there was no protection in that industry, which is fantastic that they do have it and people can report things and, being treated not right. And my husband is amazing. He's such a good businessman. He's like, had to teach me saying there's no free jobs. Like, it's charity and call it what it is if you do a free job. And I'm guilty of that too. I had my kids and I was married, and like being a creative person, you always want to create something, right? Like, as an artist, you just want to be in that energy. So I would do free shoots forever. I'm like, I don't need the money really. Like, I just want to create things. But then, your time is valuable as well, and your skills and what you bring to the table. And I agree with you guys, like, unless you learn something or take something as an experience or a growing process, and if it's not good for you personally, I think you should always ask yourself the question, which comes to two basic emotions, love or fear. So every time I wake up now, I always say, like, do I say yes out of love or out of fear? And like, it's just such an amazing thing to do, I find. And the power of no, like, you can't underestimate it, because, people would respect you. And I think self-respect is everything. And if you don't feel like you're doing something for the better good of other people and you're attaching yourself for the project that really stand up for your values and belief, I think you should walk out of any kind of situation, no matter how much money you offered. Just don't be seduced by the devil, as I say. There's always another opportunity, and it does always open the doors, but it can be scary. And, talking about like movies, you mentioned Kristen Bell. I know that entertainment industry is unpredictable sometimes. So even if people like put a project together, you never know if it's going to be a flop or it will make like millions of money. So a lot of times I see artists who do projects just for passion, which I also understand, things like theater or like some movies with the directors that you really love. You don't know how much they're going to make on the end, because it just takes like a group of people to put a thing together, which is amazing. But yeah, and I mean, look at all those things like Devil Wears Prada, like interns. I just feel you guys so bad, because I see in the entertainment industry, like all the interns who are trying to make, and I think it's okay and cool to learn and be an intern for a while. But if you're forced to bring like coffee to a terrible boss who just like throws the coffee out and treats you badly, that's just an abuse of power. So I think the power dynamic is an interesting thing as well. And I think there should be an equalizer where you fight to be paid equally for for things as well. Like, I mean, it amazes me that every woman is paid 80 cents for $1. Like, I definitely fight for that a lot, and things don't change as much, but I think it's important to spread awareness about that as well. And I did work with a coach in pandemic who told me, like, please promise me you'll never sell your soul. I literally had to sign the letter. Like, you're not doing free jobs unless it does actually bring you something. So I had to, and still have to, say no. And I do piss off a lot of people who get angry and defensive, but I walk out and I'm like, you know what? I feel so much better. And as a mother, give my kids a message as well, subconsciously and consciously, on that sense where, you know, your life is valuable and who you are and what you stand for.
I love what you say about you have worth, because that's what friends, family are always telling me. They're like, you are more valuable than you think. Why are you doing this? Because you have skills. You've worked so hard to obtain those skills. And yeah, you do have worth. And I'm not going to go into too much detail, but what happened to me this week is I stood up for something I believed in, and that was professionalism. And I stood up for being well prepared. I stood up for doing the best that I could possibly do at this job. And unfortunately, it upset a fellow host who was put there, who didn't have time to prepare. And anyway, enough of that. The prepared person ended up getting the goodbye. And I stood up for what I believed in. I have no regrets, because, you know, if I agree to something, I'm always 100% a professional. I always put everything into it because it's a reflection of me. It's a reflection of my brand. And I'm also an ambassador for that brand. And, you know, I think that in the ideal world, yes, everybody should get paid for everything, but this isn't the ideal world. If you can get paid because you enjoy something, you just enjoy being a part of a group and being part of a show, then that is that's payment in itself, because you have time where you are generally happy and you enjoy the people. If you get credits that are going to keep you vibrating on IMDb, because we all know IMDb credits are important, that is payment. There's different forms of payment, but when people treat you badly and they treat you as disposable and they don't value your worth, then that is a big no. And that's when you have to say, you know what, I am valuable, I am worth something, you are lucky to have me. And if they don't agree that they are lucky to have you, then it's their loss. And I think, yeah, you have to be true to yourself. You have to, I'm not going to say be arrogant about your worth, but you have to believe in yourself and know that you are valuable, that you are good at what you do. And, you know, there's lots of things that I do for free because, for example, at the moment, I'm building my voice reel, and not as in voiceover, but I'm building kind of my character reel. I will do that for free because I want professional stuff for my reel. And so I don't mind, because it's great for me. I enjoy it. I'm testing out a new craft. And for me, you know, just getting professional credits that I can also put on my reel, that is payment. But there's other stuff where you just feel I'm not appreciated, I'm being taken advantage of. And sometimes you look around at your friends who might have a 9 to 5, who get paid by the hour, and you just think, what am I doing? But other times you're like, I have goals, I have passion, I know where I'm going, I know why I'm doing this. And throw it at me, guys, throw the good and the bad at me, because I will swim my way through it, I will navigate it. And I'm going to finish this, because we are out of time, on a very positive. I have a friend who worked 2 years for BBC Radio 1. He produced for no money for 2 years. Anyway, from that, he got a career working with the best of the best at BBC Radio 1. He produced The Breakfast Show. He's made a lot of money for those 2 years that he didn't get paid. He got a very good salary from it. He's now kind of the top dog at another radio station, which is, it's not a BBC one, but it's, I was going to say global, but that's the wrong word. It's across the whole of the UK. And, you know, if he hadn't given up his time because he believed in what he wanted to do for his life, he would probably be working in the supermarket. He wouldn't have this amazing career in radio, which he goes to work every day and he loves what he does. And yes, he did get exploited, but he got exploited and he came out smiling. And so I think it's how you navigate it. It's about your attitude. Is the glass half full? Is it half empty? How can I use this situation for my advantage? it's not black and white, it's black, white, grey, all shades of colours. And I think it is about what's right for you at the time. It's about what you enjoy, what you're passionate about, and, you know, just doing stuff that you feel good about. And I think if you feel good about stuff, then you can take your career in the right direction. And, you know, I'm thankful for all my opportunities. I'm thankful that the thing that happened to me this week happened because I have looked at the event and I think, my God, I am glad I wasn't part of that, because, you know, it was also my reputation that would have been. And yeah, like I said, if I do something, I'm very professional and I want to be the best of the best of the best that Cat can be, not someone who's not prepared. And, you know, and so I'm thankful that things go wrong too, because you learn from it all. So on that note, because we are out of time and we have talked and we have talked and we have talked, I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. Kay, thank you so much for stepping in last minute, because obviously you stepped in yesterday. Diana, as always, it's a pleasure having you here. Eugenia, go to bed, woman, go to bed. It's like 2 a.m. Get to sleep. And yeah, from the FNL Network, from me, we'll see you next time. I've had a blast. I hope you guys have too.